who says she's having trouble with the link. Okay, hopefully we'll resolve that. But I know at least from her office, the feedback was that we wanted to have at least two of the panelists who are community members speak first, and then I know I'm told Fernando had said some of the administration folks have a time constraint, so I think we will try to do, at least in terms of the panel, Mr. Lisa, Miss La Negra, and then Chief Osgood, Chief Crockett, Chief Cook, and then let me just double check. We have another panel of Dwayne, Becca, Stacy, Ken, and Yvonne in terms of advocates and community groups. So those are the panelists scheduled to be part of this. And then I'm seeing also in the attendee or / public testimony room 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9. Yeah. I think it looks like 10 people, but 9,
12
who are not panelists.
Oh. Okay. So, okay, I'm just curious about just the way things flow, but
yeah. Why don't I think? Hold on. Let's see if okay, hold on. Let me send her the link. I would like to take at least a few before the panels, just so folks don't have to wait for so long.
Until eternity to be heard.
Exactly. Okay, I'm sending the link, so hopefully it can shut down soon.
Becca, you should just get a job here. You're always here.
Yesterday was a long one.
Yeah. Buckle up. It's going to be a long one too, just so you know. And I see our friend Stacy too.
Yeah, Becca took the last meeting for me, so I'm here to stick it out for her tonight. Okay.
Oh, okay, Madam Prez, let me see. You're on. Let me see. Are you in the room already? Oh, okay, got it. Okay, so all the sponsors are here. Then let's dive in and we will get started, and then I'll outline the flow a little bit more as we get into it too. Okay, Candace, are we good to go on your end?
We are good to go. We are live and recording.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. Welcome to the... Oh, okay, hold on. Sorry, I need to get my actual script up on my phone as well. Welcome to the City Council's hearing on docket number 0984, the Melnea Cass Boulevard Project Design Review. This hearing is being held in the Committee on Planning, Development, and Transportation. And for the record, my name is Michelle Wu, City Councilor at Large, and I have the honor of chairing this committee. This public hearing is being recorded and live streamed at boston.gov. It will also be rebroadcast on Comcast Channel 8, RCN 82, Verizon 964, and we will take public testimony throughout the hearing. If you wish to testify by virtual testimony, please email cora.montrond@boston.gov for the link. That's Cora, CORA.MONTROND@boston.gov for the link. You may also submit written testimony by emailing ccc.plan@boston.gov. So again, docket number 0984 has been sponsored by Council President Kim Janey, Councilor Julia Mejia, and myself, and we are joined by colleagues in order of arrival. Councilor Ed Flynn, Councilor Liz Braden, Councilor Matt O'Malley, and Councilor Anissa Sabi George. So the flow of today, we have many folks who are scheduled to participate as panelists and as members of the public who wish to testify. So we'll try to move through as quickly as possible, and I will be keeping time so both panelists and folks offering testimony could keep it relatively concise. We will start with opening statements from colleagues, and feel free, colleagues, if you just want to say hello and waive the bulk of it, we would appreciate the brevity very much. And then once colleagues have given statements, we will go to a few members of the public for public testimony. I think let's plan to do 4 or 5 members of the public. And then we'll go to our panel, our first panel, which will include 2 community members and 3 administration folks. Then the rest of public testimony, assuming it stays in this list of about 4 or 5 people. And then our second community panel. And Candace is flagging for me that we also have some video testimony that we will try to play at the end if that works as well. Okay, so let's start with the sponsors. Council President Kim Janey.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
I apologize for no video. I'm running behind schedule. I'm out and about and will be settled soon so that I can give my all to this hearing. I want to thank you and Council Mejia for your partnership on this important issue. I want to thank the many advocates in this space. I also want to thank you as the chair of this committee, Councilor Wu, for being very accommodating and thinking outside of the box and allowing us to set the stage with community members who will open up first before we hear from the administration. I really appreciate that. This is an important issue. It's an environmental justice issue, which makes it a racial justice issue. And we know the history in our city, particularly in this corridor, when we're thinking about Melnea Cass Boulevard and why we even have this boulevard. And it was because we had to fill up where they had tore down houses and homes to make way for a highway that the community was successful in fighting against. And so it's with the context of that history that we need to make sure that we're not repeating those same mistakes. Again, I want to keep my comments brief, hear from my colleagues, the esteemed panels, and those who are waiting to testify in the public. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And thank you again for your partnership, and thank you, Councilor Mejia, for your partnership.
Thank you, Madam President. Councilor Mejia.
Yes. Thank you to the chair and thank you to my co-sponsor and sister in service, President Council Janey, for calling this hearing. When we heard the original plan for Melnea Cass Boulevard would remove 124 trees, it felt all too familiar of a feeling that our community was being designed around us and not with us. And while we appreciate the commitment on behalf of the city to reevaluate the proposal, building and maintaining trust in the community is hard to build and easy to lose. We need to be doing all that we can to lead with the people and put them in the power to design what they know is best for them. I'm hoping that this hearing will serve as a safe space for community to speak truth to power and hold us accountable to their needs. And I will also say that I really do appreciate the whole idea of leading with those who are living the realities and creating space for us to center this conversation on community voices. I always walk into every room or Zoom nowadays, and I like to see who's in it and who's not. And so I am really happy to know that we're going to be leading with those who are most impacted by this conversation, and also creating an opportunity for them to pose their own questions to the administration. So hoping that that can happen as well. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Councilor Mejia. Councilor Flynn.
Thank you, Councilor Wu. Councilor Wu, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Wu, President Janey, Councilor Mejia, for sponsoring this hearing. I know that these trees are important to many residents because these trees are not only beautiful and make our landscape beautiful as well, but having a healthy tree canopy is good for our environment, our water quality, our air quality, and our public health, critical issues. I know that there are other issues, and I just want to recognize that this is also an environmental justice issue. I have worked closely in the past several years with Chief Cook on many of these issues, and I know he'll be speaking, so I wanted to acknowledge the work of Chris Cook. So I'm interested in learning more about the design project plans and where it stands, and I'm looking forward to hearing feedback from residents. Thank you to my city council colleagues and to the administration team that's here, to the panelists, and to the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Flynn. Councilor Braden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to the makers for this very important hearing on. I echo Councillor Flynn's remarks about the importance of tree canopy. It is an environmental justice issue. It is a public health issue. And I look forward to hearing the discussion this afternoon. And thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Braden. Councillor O'Malley.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be on this Zoom with you. Thank you to the makers for their leadership in this space. Like every colleague has said, I remain very concerned about some of the aspects of the proposal. I have long been called a tree hugger long before it was in vogue, and I take that wear that title very proudly. I've done some great work, in all due modesty, on this body as it relates to expanding the tree canopy. Now, Congresswoman, former Councilor Presley, and I did a number of hearings on expanding the tree canopy in the city of Boston. So this seems to run in direct conflict of that. So obviously, we understand there's an opportunity for redesign for safe streets, for infrastructure that's going to accommodate multimodal aspects, but the trees, it ought not be one versus the other. We can and we really ought to be striving for both here. So look forward to the work and hearing from members of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Malley. And Councillor Sabi George.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the makers for bringing this before the body, as it's a really important discussion for us to participate in and play a role in, to amplify and support the voices of those in the community that feel so strong about protecting Melnea's trees and that corridor. So looking forward to today's hearing and testimony from both the panelists and the public. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, let me just double check to make sure we didn't miss any other colleagues who have joined. Okay, I think that looks good. I do want to mention as well that Councillors Campbell and Bach both sent in letters that they wish to have read into the record. So first from Councillor Campbell, dear Chair and colleagues, I regretfully cannot attend today's hearing on docket 0984. Please extend my thanks to the sponsors for calling such a timely and important conversation on how the city can and must ensure that we're using a health equity lens, environmental justice lens in all neighborhood development or redesign. I will be ably represented by a member of my staff at today's hearing and look forward to reviewing today's hearing recording and committee report and working with the committee on any recommended next steps. Sincerely, Councillor Andrea Campbell. And then also, from Councillor Kenzie Bach, dear Councillor, I regret that I'm unable to join today's Planning, Development, and Transportation hearing on the Melnea Boulevard design due to a family obligation. Please convey my thanks to the many community advocates who have reached out on this issue. I share their passion for mature trees and their concerns about the need for a more deeply consultative process. I am also grateful for Council President Janey's leadership on this issue as a District 7 councillor. I will have staff take notes on this hearing and will also review the tape myself. All best wishes for a productive hearing. Sincerely, Councillor Bach. Okay, at this point, we will take 5 members of the public for public testimony and then into our panel, our first panel. And then again, there will be more public testimony than our second panel. So I'll announce the order of the names. And Candace, could you please help me make sure everybody's let into the appropriate Zoom room? So first will be Jennifer Rose Wood, then Sarah Freeman, Stacy Rubin, Caroline Toth, and David Meshulam. And again, if everyone who is testifying could please limit yourself to 2 minutes, I will time you, and please introduce yourself and your residence for the record and any affiliation you wish to share. Okay, let's see if Jennifer is... Oh, I see Jennifer. Great.
Hi.
Please go ahead.
Thanks so much, Councillor Wu, and thank you to President Janey and Councillors Mejia for your support of this critical issue. I also want to thank the Friends of Melnea Cast Group and neighbors who have shown leadership and advocacy. I come to you as a concerned resident, and I live on Thornton Street, just mere blocks away from the boulevard. And I'm strongly opposed to this project, and I think it needs to be restarted from the beginning. Roxbury has some of the highest recorded temperatures in the city. And we saw multiple heat waves this summer with just really extreme and dangerously high temperatures. And as many of the counselors mentioned, we are an environmental justice neighborhood, and we're a heat island. We need more trees. We need more trees being planted right now. We don't need trees being cut down. I also come to you as a concerned parent. Because of the extreme weather this summer, there were many days where I could not take my children outside. We were prisoners of the extreme temperature. Our city has elevated rates of asthma. 1 in 8 children in Boston have asthma. I want, including many of the children at my children's school, the Nathan Hale, right here in Roxbury. I want my children and their friends and their classmates to be able to go outside and play in the summer. I don't want them to be stuck inside, fearing for their health and safety. Finally, I come to you as a concerned resident of planet Earth. The past 10 years have been the warmest on record. We need to be taking immediate, urgent action. We cannot afford to be losing these resources that are a hedge against literally our future and life on the planet. And I think that you have heard this before, but I need to say it again. I know nobody in my neighborhood who supports this project or understands the rationale for it. And to me, that speaks of a very flawed process where the people for whom this project is supposedly designed have no wish to see it carried out. So I really thank you.
Thank you very much. Sarah Freeman? And again, sorry, I'm going to set my alarm, so when you hear that sound, that means 2 minutes is up. Sarah.
Hi, everyone. I live in JP, but I'm a tree hugger and a bike advocate and safe transportation advocate citywide. So I wrote a letter. I'm kind of new to this issue. I've heard about it for years, but wrote a letter back in mid-July to Mayor Walsh and CC'd a few of you. I'm going to read as far as I can get in the time allowed. As Boston is facing a heat wave this weekend, I'm writing to ask you to think seriously about the Melnea Cass Boulevard design project. Is this really the best that we can do? It doesn't seem fair that bicyclists, pedestrians, and trees must compete for the little space that's left over after the polluting motor vehicles get all the space that they need. Can't we find a way to provide bicycle facilities and protect mature trees? It's my understanding that this project involves cutting down 121 trees and that the roots of another 249 will be cut, impacting their health and likely shortening their lives. Losing these trees would have serious negative environmental, economic, and public health impacts on this majority Black and Latinx community. While I was writing this message, I received an alert that the mayor had declared a heat emergency on Sunday and Monday. People will use more air conditioners, receiving short-term relief, but exacerbating the problem. Trees reduce the need for air conditioning, and mature trees are more beneficial than young trees, which take many years to reach maturity if they survive to reach maturity. As trees age, their climate benefit grows. Years ago, when this project started, perhaps the decision makers didn't anticipate the increased severity of climate change or the increased awareness of environmental justice and social
Thank you,
justice.
Sarah.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And yeah, and we'll make sure that letter is fully into the record as well. Thank you. Stacy? Can everyone hear when the alarm goes off on my phone or no? No?
I heard
okay.
it.
Oh, okay. Great. I'll try to flag both ways then. Stacy, please go ahead.
Councilors Wu, Mejia, and Janey, thank you so much for convening this hearing. My name is Stacy Rubin, and I am a senior attorney at Conservation Law Foundation. I request that the city complete 3 actions relating to this project. First, comply with state law by conducting the proper process to investigate the planned tree removal of the boulevard. Number 2 is to address the climate resiliency needs of the Melnea Cass Boulevard neighborhood. And 3 is to engage in an effective and required process that recognizes that this is both an environmental justice and civil rights issue. First, on the tree removal requirement, my colleagues and I sent a letter to the city's Parks and Recreation Commissioner and Law Department explaining the requirement to comply with the public shade tree law. The law requires the city to hold a public hearing describing each and every tree that is planned for removal. To date, the city has not done so. In addition to the public hearing, the tree warden must approve any such removal in writing. Since the impact of every living tree removed will be so great, it is critical for the city to provide residents the opportunity to voice their concerns at this legally required hearing. Secondly, the city's climate resiliency policies require addressing the urban heat island effect in Roxbury. The city itself has estimated that by 2050, the average summer temperature may be as high as 76 degrees, which is up from 69 degrees. And in particular, Roxbury has some of the hottest temperatures in the city. We know that 34% of Roxbury residents are dealing with a medical illness and may have symptoms worsened by the physical stress of a heat wave. And third, I recommend that the city engage in a collaborative process with residents, community-based organizations, and other stakeholders on a revised project design. Conservation Law Foundation stands in solidarity with Roxbury leaders in urging the city and the State Department of Transportation to respond to the community concerns. We can work with the Friends of Melnea Cass Boulevard, Speak for the Trees, ACE, neighborhood associations, and others who have worked so hard to grow and sustain this effort. It's time for decision makers to comply with the law, listen to residents, and address community concerns about tree removal, public health, and EJ. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stacey. Caroline.
Hi, my name is Caroline Toth Bernstein. I live in Lower Roxbury. I lived here for 17 years. I live here with my son and my husband. So I'm going to pose a couple questions. One is, in the 1930s, when the federal government and the maps redlined Lower Roxbury, was it systematic racism? I would argue yes. Academically, yes, is the answer to that question. In the 1960s, when the Commonwealth of Massachusetts bulldozed the homes and businesses owned by people of color in Lower Roxbury, was it systematic racism? Yes. In 2020, today, when the city of Boston proposes to destroy and damage hundreds of mature trees in Lower Roxbury, is it systematic racism once again? I would argue emphatically yes. Studies show formerly redlined neighborhoods have less tree cover, are often heat islands, the residents have greater social vulnerability. They also show these once redlined neighborhoods suffer not only from reduced wealth and greater poverty, but from lower life expectancy and higher incidence of chronic disease. The lingering impact of redlining remains in Lower Roxbury today. This tree canopy of Lower Roxbury is a community resource. It's a vital asset. The community deserves these trees and more of them. They're entitled to the benefits these trees provide. The idea that the city would take these trees from here now is unconscionable. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you very much. Okay, great job staying within time. I'm going to reset the timer before the alarm goes off. And last but not least for this round, David.
Thank you, Councillor, and thank you all the councillors for holding this meeting, and nice to see the chiefs here. Thank you for opportunity to share with you our concerns. My name is David Meshulam. A couple of years ago, I founded a new nonprofit in Boston called Speak for the Trees Boston. And for the past 2 years, we've been working closely with friends of Melnea Boulevard. And I want to make sure that we recognize that it's their effort and their concerns that for the past decade has made sure that this is an issue that is front and center. They've attended public meetings, they've collected information, and they have been advocating day in and day out for these trees. And for the past several months, the community work around this advocacy has grown. We set out a petition that received over 13,000 signatories in 20 organizations demanding that these trees be saved. In the process, it's fair to say, I think, that we've made new friendships and increased a sense of community and belonging across the neighborhood and between organizations. One that harkens back to the People Before Highways movement of the 1960s, a movement that led to the planting of these very trees in 1981. Our work together has been a lesson in democracy and community building during a time of pandemic and of racial reckoning. And it hasn't been smooth sailing, even internally, but I'm proud to say that our conversations have been powerful, and they've been a testament to the important, slow community work that is required to build consensus and trust. I look back on my notes from May when I last spoke to the city councilors, and I had the honor to speak about the subject of Boston Parks and Rec Department's budget request for FY 2021, specifically the urban forest plan, and I commended the administration for taking bold action in thinking about climate change and in recognizing the importance of protecting and growing Boston's urban forest. Looking back at my notes, I called for an approach that was guided by 4 root values. Yes.
Can you summarize that? That was fine.
Yes.
Thank you.
I called for it to be holistic, comprehensive, community-driven, and data-rich. And in this process, I see none of those bearing out, and I urge the city to reconsider the plans. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And apologies again, everyone, about trying to just keep us along. So I know we have a lot of folks we really want to hear from, want to respect everyone's time. So at this point, let me do a quick sweep to see if any other colleagues have joined us. No, okay, I think we're good to dive in. So we'll hear from Mr. Luis Elisa, Ms. Nina La Negra, and then our administration representatives in one panel together. Mr. Elisa.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Chairman Wu, and thank you, President Janey, and the other councils for taking the time and the opportunity to allow us to voice our concerns and opinions relative to this very important situation that is existing within our community. First, my name is Luis Elisa. I'm the president of the Garrison Trotter Neighborhood Association, an organization that's been around for 43 years in the community of Roxbury in general. But we're also part of the Roxbury United Neighbors Run, and we're working with groups from the lower Roxbury all the way up through Dorchester. I'm also one of the founding members and the former president of the Franklin Park Coalition. So my relationship with the trees and parks go back a very long time. Matter of fact, it goes back so far that as an EPA fellow in graduate school, one of my concerns was the environment and how to improve urban environments, given the situations that we were experiencing then regarding the changing of housing and homes and the increase in highways and things that were taking place in the predominantly African-American communities throughout the state, the city, and the nation. My concerns run very deep to the extent that we keep trying to refine this or define this situation with Melnea Cass as an issue that's for Roxbury. It's not a Roxbury issue. It's an environmental issue. It's an environmental resiliency issue. It's an environmental protection issue that affects all of Boston. While I live on Cedar Street, my concerns and activities take me through Melnea Cass on a regular basis. My church is only 3 blocks away from that intersection. And I can tell you that anyone who doesn't pay attention to the fact that tree canopy and having the ability to absorb the carbon monoxide and other particulates that are spewed into the air coming off a major highway are not paying attention and not very much aware of what the impact of vehicle pollution and emissions are on society as a whole. Without the tree canopy, that's on Melnea Cass that absorbs a lot of the traffic that makes its way from the Route 93 across Mass Avenue down to Tremont Street. They don't understand that pollution, if it was not being captured by the tree canopy, would be dispersed in the communities throughout the city. It would go into the environment, and it has such deleterious effects on the quality of life, and it affects the health care of people in the immediate area, but in general throughout the city of Boston. So I urge people to look at the situation that we're facing here on Melnea Cass. Our efforts and attempts to save the 125 trees that have been proposed to be cut down for whatever purpose it doesn't seem to make sense when I looked at the plan. And the trees that would be affected if they did do this plan, it would not be in the benefit of the residents of the city of Boston, but have the most deleterious impacts and effects on the people adjacent to that plan and adjacent to Melnea Cass. I therefore ask that the city councils will talk with the people from the Parks Department, with the commissioner, will talk with the tree warden and anybody else who's been in support of this plan and ask them, do they think the same thing? Do they do an environmental impact study? Do they really understand the impacts of removing the tree canopy in an area where you have so much pollution coming from so many cars that come through this community? And do they know what the long-term effects would be? And I guarantee that if they take the time to do a comprehensive study and analysis of what this process will be in a community adjacent, but for the community of Boston in general, they might want to rethink the design. The other part is that being a part of the Franklin Park Coalition and Garrison Trotter and a number of organizations, and particularly a number of churches in the area, we all call on the city of Boston to be more mindful and more respectful of the needs and concerns of the residents of this area, because we want to be planned with and not just planned for. There's enough intelligence and enough communications and skills within our community that we can work with the Parks Department, we can work with the city of Boston, and we can work with the state. I dare say that a lot of people making decisions that are going to affect the quality of life of residents of Boston don't live here in Boston. I believe the Department of Transportation has failed in many ways to take in the concerns of the people who live in Boston for a lot of the projects they have done. But this seems the most supercilious of them all, because the destroying of this many trees in a community that has this much traffic means they did not give any real consideration to what they were proposed to do and what the long-term impacts would be. I would say to the city of Boston that they can say to their colleagues at the state level that they need to take a moment, stop, take a knee, and reconsider and think ahead as to what would happen, the damage that they would cause to the environmental health and the immediate stochastic health of all those involved in the community around them. So therefore, I ask that when you're working and talking to and trying to communicate with your agencies and departments as to why they propose a plan and how they now can fix it, correct it, so that it'll work on behalf of community residents, please ask them to take into consideration not just the immediate needs and what the value may be for the construction they want to do, but what is the long-term effect and impact on the health and safety of the residents of this city, this state, and particularly in the immediate area of Melnea Cass. It's a beautiful canopy. It's a beautiful street. It can accommodate the needs of bikers, pedestrians, and cars, but it cannot survive if we start destroying the environmental protections